Today on Upfront, is a blue wave coming to Wisconsin in November? We'll test the theory with Democratic candidate for Congress Dan Cole next on Upfront. Plus, saving Kimberly Clark, Republican State Senator Roger Roth on efforts to keep KC in the Fox Valley. And independent voters, why is Governor Walker struggling with them so far this year?
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Upfront with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Upfront. With the November election less than 2 months away, Democrats remain upbeat about their chances this fall, hopeful that a blue wave will help them capture the 24 seats they need to win a majority in the House of Representatives. But will that wave wash across Wisconsin? Just 2 of 8 congressional seats are considered in play. The 1st congressional district, an open seat, is rated lean Republican by the Cook Political Report, and the 6th congressional district is rated likely Republican, according to Cook. That race, the 6th, will see the incumbent, Republican Congressman Glenn Grofman, go up against our next guest, Democrat Dan Cole of Mequon. And Dan Cole, welcome back to Upfront.
Great being with you, Mike.
So you've been out in the field campaigning for months now. Give me your sense. Is this race in any way a referendum on President Trump?
You know, I think every midterm election to some degree is a referendum on the sitting president. So in that respect, this is no different.
But is that what voters talk about with you?
No. So everywhere I go, people are looking for new leadership that is focused on solving problems. They're looking for leaders who want to work to get things done, who aren't just rubber stamps for their party.
I want to talk to you about some of the issues that you're talking with voters about, but I do want to talk to you a bit about your TV commercials, because your commercials portray you as not being a politician. You say, I'm not a politician. I want to ask you whether that's fair. I mean, you ran for political office, you ran for the assembly unsuccessfully, and then you worked for a Washington lobbying firm, J Street, which is a liberal pro-Israel group. It also supports Democratic candidates. Is it fair to call yourself not a politician?
I think it's entirely fair. I'm not a politician. I've worked in business. I've headed up some nonprofits. I'm part of a family. So I understand how to get things done, that there has to be compromise. I bring that kind of mindset as a candidate running for Congress.
Also, in one of your ads, you say you do not think Nancy Pelosi should be the leader of Democrats in the House. Why do you say that?
I don't. You know, we have so much fighting that's going on in Washington. I think we need new leadership. We need leaders who are going to work across the aisle to get things done. We have change coming on the Republican side, and I think we need to see a change in leadership on the Democratic side, too.
You talk also in one of the ads about term limits. That's often an issue you hear Republicans talk about. Why have you decided term limits is important?
There are too many career politicians in Washington, Mike, who put their party's interests ahead of what needs to be done for their constituents. I think instituting term limits would be a step in the right direction to eliminate a lot of the dysfunction and make Washington work better.
So for you, for example, if you were elected, how long would you pledge to serve? No more than 8 years or so?
Yeah, I think 8 years is enough time to go to Washington, make a difference for people, and then come home.
I want to get a sense of the big issues, the ones that really resonate with voters. What do you hear from the people of the 6th District?
Everywhere I go, people are looking for new leadership, again, that puts people ahead of party. We need to make sure that everyone in this country can get health care that's quality and affordable. We need to have an economy that works for everyone, not just corporations, but improves conditions for people in their daily lives.
Let me drill down on that. Let's talk health care for a moment. There are a number of Democrats who are supporting the concept of Medicare for all, single-payer system, government-run. Do you support Medicare for all?
I am not calling for single-payer, Mike.
Why not?
Well, you know what? What I'm focused on are taking concrete steps to lower the cost of health care. So I do think that middle-aged Americans should be able to buy into Medicare. I think Medicare should be able to negotiate to lower the cost of prescription drugs. I think that Americans should be able to import drugs from Canada, from countries like Canada, when big pharmaceutical companies drive up the cost. Those are the kinds of steps that I'm calling for right now.
But not a blanket Medicare for all. You do not support that.
No, I think we should improve the system, and work to make sure that everybody has health care that's quality and affordable.
You have been critical of Congressman Grothman voting for the tax reform legislation, the tax cut legislation. But yet Republicans will argue today, and they are arguing in this campaign cycle, that economic growth in the country is strong, unemployment is low. We've even seen wages in recent reports moving up. How do you argue that the tax cut has been a bad thing?
Well, you know what? Everywhere I go, people feel like they're being left behind. This is a tax bill where 83% of the benefits went to the wealthiest 1%. We have corporations. We see what's happening with them. They are engaging in stock buybacks. CEO pay is going through the roof. But wages, they've increased somewhat, but they're barely keeping pace with inflation right now.
In that district, in the 6th district, you have, for example, cheesemakers like Sargento or Sartori. They're concerned about tariffs right now. What is your stance on tariffs?
You know what? You're right. Farmers, manufacturers, cheesemakers in Wisconsin, they didn't sign up for a trade war where they are at ground zero. So this was self-inflicted. This, to me, this did not have to happen the way that it did.
I want to ask you about the reality of the district in which you're running, and that is that it's been a Republican district, that Donald Trump did very well there in 2016. What evidence is there to suggest to you that a Democrat can win in what has been a strong Republican district?
The evidence that I have are the conversations that I'm having with people, Mike. People, they're very cynical about our democracy. So like you said, I'm running on a term limits pledge. I am not taking corporate PAC dollars. We need to make our democracy work better. And everybody is very concerned about health care coverage. The notion that people with pre-existing conditions would lose their coverage, that is a total non-starter. We need to fight to make sure that doesn't happen.
Rebecca Dallett ran for state Supreme Court. She got, I think you said, about 48% of the vote in that district. Does that give you some signs of hope for winning?
Yeah, she got over 48% in the district. Obama carried the district. Herb Kohl, my uncle, the last time he was on the ballot, he got over 60%. And we live at a time where there is so much division and there is not enough problem solving. I bring a different approach. People are responding quite well to that approach.
Dan Kohl is the Democrat running in the 6th Congressional District. We appreciate your time today. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you, Mike.
And we'll note that Republican Congressman Glenn Grothman will join us on this program next month. Governor Walker appears to be struggling for now with independent voters. Later on Up Front, we'll look at the reasons for this with the reporter who's written more on this topic than just about anyone. But first, efforts to keep Kimberly Clark in Wisconsin. I'll ask if a big incentive package can pass the state Senate. That's next on Up Front.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.